Hey everybody, my name is Mike Johnson. This is the Success Estate Podcast. I am proud to present a special episode. We're actually in season 4, kicking off season 4 on Friday. So please be sure to tune in, like, subscribe, share. We got a ton of great guests coming up in this season. So I look forward to sharing those episodes, and I hope you will tune in and get this great information. As you know, for all the listeners that have listened before, it is really I feel like my duty as an agent to inform people. I believe that most people can make great decisions when they have good information. And so today we have an important issue coming up where we get a chance to lend our voice by way of vote. It started actually this past Monday, and we'll go through November 7th. That's the Longview ISD Bond Proposition A and B. And I don't know enough about it, so I think it's important to get somebody in that can educate us and help us make an informed decision. So today I've got a special guest with me, Dr. Wayne Guidry.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Would you mind introducing yourself? Tell us who you are and why you are a good voice to educate us on this.
Yeah. Well, my name is Wayne Guidry. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Finance at Longview ISD. I've been there for 2.5 years. My wife, she's a counselor at the high school. Been there for 5 years. And I just appreciate your introduction just about informing voters. And that's really the mission myself and the district has been on for the past ever since we started talking about this bond, is let's communicate with the community. We felt like the last May when we had a failed bond election that we failed miserably to communicate, and so we're just adamant about let's get out and inform people, give them the facts, and let our community make a decision.
Got you. Some basic facts, and I was fortunate to connect with Dr. Guidry through a good friend, John Nustad, new city councilman, who's also got an episode coming up that y'all should get ready for. It's a great episode, and he said Dr. Guidry is the man that you should talk to about the bond. So can you give us some of the basic? What are we voting for in this bond? What are some of the basics of the bond?
Gotcha. So we'll be asking voters to vote on 2 propositions, and Proposition A, we get listed first: safety and security improvements on every campus. And I tell educators every year that our second priority is to educate our kids. Our number one priority is to keep our students safe.
Sure, super important.
We really take on the role of a parent when those kids come on our campus, and just like any parent, safety is number one. And so we'll have safety upgrades at every campus, beginning with the high school campus. That campus has got to be one of the most insecure campuses in the state of Texas.
That's scary to hear.
In the middle of 2 highways.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's most unsafe. It just has it's
so much access.
accessible.
Yeah, so much access.
Anybody can walk on, and any one of those 2,400 kids
can
walk off at any point.
Well, I went to school there. I graduated in 2007, and I can remember, hey, if we wanted to walk off campus, we could just walk to McDonald's,
restaurants across the street.
Yep. Ryan's used to be there, and go get some rolls and things from Ryan's before basketball games and things like that. So, that's definitely something that I think is super important.
So that's one thing we'll do is put a perimeter fence around that high school.
Gotcha.
So there's just one way in and one way out.
Okay.
And that's the regards.
Okay, awesome. So we got 2 propositions. How much is being requested for this bond?
Okay, so Proposition A is right at $291 million, a little over $291 million, and we're not just building a fence for that much.
That's a great fence.
We're also renovating the high school. That campus is close to 50 years old, and just is falling apart. And the early graduation high school needs to be renovated. That's probably the oldest building in the district. A new career and technology education building. We have great courses we want to teach. We currently offer phenomenal courses for career and technology, and we want to expand that, but we don't have room.
Is that CTE? That okay?
Yeah, CTE, career and technology.
I listened to Spencer Barnes, y'all. If you want a different perspective, Spencer Barnes has a podcast where he also interviewed some of the teachers at the school and Coach King, and that was one thing that they were talking about. Now, the early graduation. Is that the old Foster Middle School?
Yes.
It used to be the high school at one point, I believe. But that's the old Foster Middle School where they do the early graduation. Correct. Okay. So are you talking about having renovations done to that building with this property? Okay.
Yep.
Got you.
And career technology is so important in our state. if you look at Gregg County graduates, about 54% of them go to some form of post-secondary education. Only about 23% of them are successful.
Whoa.
So the majority of our kids that graduate in Gregg County, and this is not just special to Gregg County, this is statewide. It's very similar. The majority of our kids depend on what we taught them at school. And so if all we're doing is preparing them to pass a STAR test, then we're failing our kids.
Sure.
And I say that, to me, that's kind of personal. I've got 4 kids. The oldest is living the dream, is an engineer. The second one, it's taken a while at college.
Sure.
And I don't know if he's going to, it's a 50-50 chance of what I get.
Sure.
And he actually dropped out one year and went and sold vacuum cleaners for a year. And that just really frustrated me. I'm like, you spent 13 years in public education and that didn't teach you to do anything.
Wow.
And so I just think it's important, based on the data that we have, that we give our kids some type of secondary skill besides just passing a test.
Sure.
We want everybody, we want to prepare everybody to go be doctors and lawyers, but if it doesn't work out, at least you have something you can fall back on. And the skills that we teach our kids, you can go out and make great livings and raise a family.
Especially with the need, the explosion of need for trade skills, and things like that. And now, if I understand it, some of those things are offered at the high school as well. Some of those trade skills are offered. Now, have most of those things already been implemented? Will any of those areas be affected by the bond? As far as are there any more programs or anything coming through with that? And let me say, Dr. Guidry, hold on one second. Let me say, y'all, that this is my first time voting for a bond. Right. I believe there was a bond last year.
Correct.
And I did not participate. I should have participated.
Right.
So this is an education point for me as well. I'm not just trying to educate everybody else. I'm asking questions from the point of a father. I have 2 in the school system right now, one at Hudson Pep, the other at the Montessori school. And so these things, I don't know necessarily if they will affect now, but I know kids that are in high school, and I know kids that are going to be coming through the high school soon. So as I sat there and thought about it, I said, okay, wait a minute, I need to get informed. Right. Life, of course, there's a lot of things going on. I get busy, but this is something that's important. The decisions that we're making now are going to affect our children. I've got a potential project timeline, is what I see here. And so we're basically looking at if things are passed, if the bond is passed in this November, we're looking at seeing these things come to fruition in 2027. Is that correct? That from your understanding there?
That's our best hope.
Best hope. Okay, of course.
I don't know if there's been a facility in the last 3 years that's been that met the timeline.
Sure.
The police department. Hallsville.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Even our Montessori took a little bit longer to. Another skill that I heard, the skilled labor has been part of the issue in the construction.
Absolutely. And it's not just in Longview; it's everywhere in the state of Texas. And it's interesting. So the way our legislature and the Texas Education Agency has funded the funding mechanism they created for school districts is that the more career and technology courses they offer, the more money they'll give us. So just in the past 2 years, we've increased our revenue by $2 million in career and technology. Wow. So it's a win for the community, it's a win for the students, and it's a win for the district.
Sure.
And it's all about being able to create more skilled laborers for the kids that don't go to college.
Yeah.
Just like my son.
Mm-hmm.
You get a 50-50 chance. And the thing is, he's a phenomenal kid. He's well-mannered, intelligent, has everything that a parent would want. But I just don't have college for him.
Sure.
And our system has failed him because he hadn't learned how to do anything.
On his way out of high school, I understand.
So you asked the question, so what do we want to teach next? The next course we want to teach is the HVAC course.
Oh, man.
And so I don't know if you've had your air conditioner worked on, but it costs a lot.
In this business, we see a lot of air conditioning issues. Yeah.
So we teach plumbing, we teach welding, engineering, just all, mechanics, just all types of courses. But our goal, we meet with kids in 8th grade to set out a 4-year course.
Sure.
So our goal is they can take 4 years in that strand and end up with a professional certification.
Sure.
When they graduate.
I tell everybody, one of the few areas where I get jealous in life is watching these children march out of high school with associate degrees.
Yeah.
I'm just like, do y'all understand how much you are saving in doing so. It's a phenomenal opportunity
Right.
that the children have, and I hope that we are informing the next generation of how good this is for them.
Right.
Sometimes it's kind of, I believe it's kind of hard to see outside of your experience as a child, but I hope they're able to see down the road how much they are.
My daughter's working
being
on her
helped.
associates, and we figured it would cost about $3,000 for her to earn her associates at Longview High School.
Wow.
Yeah, $3,000. I mean, it costs more for that than one semester of tuition at a college.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
See, am I turning green? I may be a little bit envious right here. I may be getting a little upset. But going back to the bond. Okay, so there's two propositions.
Mm-hmm.
Why are there two propositions?
It's just state law.
Okay.
Law is very particular in how we arrange this,
Mm-hmm.
and so how we arrange this has nothing to do with the school district or what we thought. It was all from bond counsel and lawyers said,
Okay.
This is how you have to do it.
Okay. And I don't think we talked about Proposition B.
Right.
What are we looking at in Proposition B that we're voting for?
Well, the biggest one is a multi-purpose student facility,
Okay.
and so you see a lot of these popping out up throughout the state of Texas.
Sure.
And a lot of them you'll see different sizes, 40, 50, 60 yards long.
Mm-hmm.
And, ours is a big one. It's 120 yards long.
Oh,
and
wow.
The number one reason we did that is we have a phenomenal band. I think just got the bronze medal
It's like
yesterday.
it's in like a
state competition.
75th time.
74.
Yeah, 74
And so,
time. That's
the thing about a band is that they can't march on a field that's 90 yards long. I mean, they can, but they can't practice.
Sure.
Competition
Sure.
practice. So we just wanted to make sure that we had a field big enough so it could facilitate all groups.
Sure.
Our soccer team, thank God I don't have a kid that plays soccer. Guys are during the worst time of year. January, February, it's freezing
cold
outside.
and yep.
So, we're just very fortunate as a district that we have an athletic director and band director that just care about kids more
Sure.
than they do anything else.
Sure.
They work so well together. They currently share the turf field, and so you hear on the streets that there's going to be a football facility, low football. Like you don't know John King.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that man just cares about kids.
Sure.
Where you got a French horn in your hand,
Sure.
in volleyball. We're just all in it, for our kids, and we're just very fortunate that our staff members cooperate so well.
Sure. Now the total I'm seeing is just under $360 million.
Right.
It's hard for me to even imagine that much money. Some of the pushbacks that I've seen, are things like, they already spend money on things like the new screen at the football field. And if I understand correctly, that notion could be dispelled. We didn't use funds from the school for the screen. Is that correct? Are you aware of that?
They were grant funds.
Grant funds, okay.
There were startup funds that the district received when they became charter campuses.
Sure.
And so the campuses that have new signs. And this is what's, to me, even bigger story than that. Whenever we start talking about budgets and money and expenditures, you got to ask yourself, okay, who's coming up with this? Do we sit in central office and just come up with, what we're going to do with,
right.
Our process is that we start at the campus level, and we ask principals to start off with, what are the needs on your campus?
Gotcha.
And then we ask them to create improvement plans. And the third step of that is to create a budget that addresses the needs and how you're going to address those needs through your improvement plan.
Sure.
And so, it's not like somebody in central office said, hey, let's go buy all these signs. Those came from principals that were, going through that process, identifying needs, improvement plans, and creating a budget.
Sure.
And whether we're doing a bond issue or annual budget, campus budgets, that's the three-pronged process that we go through. And so,
Is there any chance, so I'm looking, I can see here like Proposition A, I see the safety and security that we talked about, renovations at the school and the early graduation, new career and technology education center, new bus barn, which is necessary. Right. We had a few issues with the bus barn.
Yeah.
That'd be a blessing. Early childhood facility. Is it possible though that money could be allocated to something that's not on these propositions, or is once we vote these in, this is the only place where these funds can be used?
Yeah, for the most part, that's what the district is committed to, those projects. But I had a community member the other day told me that they wanted a list to the number of rolls of toilet paper that we're going to buy. And so And I understand
you
that
want an itemized receipt for the
because I have citizens that want more detail than this.
Sure.
But here's the dilemma. Once I tell you A through Z and this many rolls of toilet paper that this is what we're doing, that's all I can do then.
Sure.
And I've committed myself because the community is going to remember what I said for the next 50 years.
Sure.
And they're going to haunt me with it if we order one extra roll of toilet paper.
Sure.
And what that does is it stops our ability to think critically and solve problems.
According to whatever situation you have in front of you.
I'm going to give you a great example. When we created this document and this budget, we weren't 8 classrooms short at the high school. We had 8 classroom teachers that started this school year off, and to this point now don't have a classroom to teach in.
Oh, wow.
They're teaching in theaters at the same time.
Oh, I saw something.
Coaching in film rooms.
Wow.
And so that's just an example of how we've had to pivot and adjust our budget and our planning.
Sure.
And so and I think you would need that in any organization, any family unit. You've got to be able to solve problems as you move along. Another great example is we were just awarded a grant funds to have a health clinic in our high school. Mm-hmm. That wasn't part of the bond either.
Sure.
And so that's just another example of how we've got to pivot and have the ability to make adjustments.
Gotcha.
And so if and I've struggled with this, how much we tell the public. I'm like, it's more important that we have the ability to solve problems as we go.
Sure.
We still want to hold to what we said. Absolutely. I mean, that's important for me and everybody in the school board that we do what we say we're going to do.
Sure.
But things are also going to change as we move.
Sure. And I think there's only 2 things that are constant in life: that's change and more change.
Right.
So I definitely can understand that when it comes to how these funds are allocated, if it's approved and moving forward, is there a place that people can go to find out, hey, this is the place for transparency? This is where you can go and see what money is spent, or even like from the last bond, I believe 2008. I don't know. I made all of this. I've been kind of researching. I believe the last bond that was passed was in 2008. Are there places that people can go and look and see some of the things that are being done, or will things just more so be like, hey, this is what we're planning to do, and you're just informing the public as those decisions are made?
Well, so our entire energy has been about November 7th.
Sure,
just
sure,
informing the public.
Sure.
Once we get past that,
to know if we even need to have a plan, we need
exactly.
to get I understand that.
But I can't tell you this. What we're committed to is just transparency.
Sure.
And I'll just give you one example. I don't know of a school district that has ever passed a bond, did the construction, and did so under budget. Longview did that in 2008.
Okay.
And people are still complaining about it.
And
just my thought, I'm like, I don't know if we communicated well enough.
Sure.
And so I think the more we communicate through this process, if we're successful with Proposition A and B, the more harmony we'll have as a community.
And what you said a minute ago, I think is important. It's something that I use in my business, because, like you said, like for me, as I'm going from getting a house under contract to closing, things change all the time. I try my best up front to just create a proper expectation. Hey, you just be ready. Nothing is final until it's final. So we may experience some changes here. And so I appreciate you, stating that, because, of course, it isn't reasonable to say, hey, I budgeted $18,450,471, and I'm going to use every last one of those dollars for safety and security. I imagine that the cost of things change. So construction materials and things like that may change over time by the time we're able to put up fencing and things like that. So specifically, like on safety and security, I know you mentioned the fence. Do you know of any other specific things that are planned on? Because safety and security, of course, we all see throughout the nation how schools are being targeted by people that have lost their mind and want to take their frustrations out on the most innocent of us. What other safety and security things can you tell us about?
So one thing is we need to upgrade all of our cameras. Our cameras are about 15 years old at all of our elementaries and junior highs.
Oh yeah, they definitely could go for it.
And so we actually have a software that it will detect if anybody were to pull a knife or a gun out.
Oh wow.
Our cameras are so old they won't work with the software. And so we would like to have that capability that.
That's important.
You know,
That's important. I've heard of weapons coming up to the school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's super important.
Right. And so we want that ability that something's pulled out, the camera picks it up, and a text or a phone call goes directly to somebody, an administrator, and the cops, so that we can all, just jump on it immediately.
Sure. Cameras, fences, and now as the cameras, that's at all the schools.
Every campus.
Okay.
And we also want to. There's some fencing that'll go up around certain campuses that we felt lacked fencing. And so we're very fortunate. Last year we had Region 7 come in and do a safety audit on every campus.
Okay.
And so we have extensive findings from that audit that we will be taking.
I think I remember my wife working at Falls. I believe she had to work. I forget the gentleman's name that is over safety for the
Mr. Mathis.
Mr. Mathis. Is it
Fisher.
Okay. And I remember her having to put together a report for that. I'm assuming it's for that audit for the school. I think about places like Foster. The access is limited into the school. There's a resource officer there at the front. Do all the campuses, or will that be the same at all campuses, like having resource officer? And will these safety and security funds, do we have to pay for officers to be there?
You bring up a great point. So one thing that is important, bond elections, we think of just buildings and construction and things like that. But we also, so we have two accounts by law. We have our maintenance and operations and our INS, which is our election, our bond account.
Got you. Okay.
And so the bond account, the only way we can spend that is if voters approve for us to do so.
Sure.
And it's very restricted by law what we can and can't spend funds out of. Basically, I can't go back to my office and say I want to spend some INS funds. We only expend out of that account 2 or 3 times a year to pay off debt.
Gotcha.
Off of bond issues that construction projects.
Right.
But by law, I cannot use any of that money to pay for security officers. I can't pay for my staff members. No type of salaries can come out of that in terms of what we do on a daily basis in our district. And so we use our operations money for that reason. And, bond elections they're not just about buildings. They're really also about how district balances its spending. Because if I'm spending, just last year we spent $4.5 million on renovations. But let me also say this, we also doubled the amount of money that we were spending on security officers at our campuses.
That's important.
Which means we doubled our coverage.
Sure.
And so, but
thank y'all for doing that, by the way.
No, absolutely.
Thank you.
But the point I'm trying to make help the community understand is that if we continue to spend millions and millions of dollars renovating and repairing that high school for starters, that gives us less capability to spend on security officers, on our teachers, on our bus drivers.
Sure.
I don't know if y'all have noticed, but we have bus drivers for every route this year, and we have we have extra bus drivers. We couldn't do that without good leadership and good pay.
Right.
And so, we're able to do that because we've had a well-balanced district. Because Dr. Wilcox built all these district campuses at the same time, elementaries and junior high. We hadn't had to spend any money on maintenance for the past 15 years.
Wow.
Well, now they're starting to get old.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to start spending money on
them. Sure.
And so the question, I would pose to the community, where do you want to pay for all this at? Do you want to pay for it out of where it's designed to be paid for, out of interest and sinking? Or do you want us to sacrifice what we're doing in maintenance and operations to pay for building type activities?
Sure. And I'm assuming the more that you have to pay from the non-INS account, the less you're able to spend on excellent teachers.
We're the highest paying district in East Texas, and our teachers earn about $3.5 million of bonus money every Christmas.
Oh wow.
We want to stay that way.
Sure.
We want to remain the highest paying district in East Texas, and giving those type of bonuses every year.
I know that it's extremely motivating to get paid,
Absolutely.
and I think it's a foolish thought to think, hey, we should have great teachers just because teachers should want to be great. So having my sister be a teacher and understanding some of the things that she had to do, the time that she spent off the clock that was still part of her job. My wife, the same way. Sometimes you look at the check, and so in a moment of honesty, I graduated with a kinesiology degree, and I wanted to go into coaching. And I have a cousin who's an athletic director here in East Texas. He started off at a small school outside of Tyler, and he told me the amount of hours that he worked and the money that he made. And I said, wait a minute, I don't know that makes sense for me. It may make sense for somebody else. It doesn't make sense for me.
In the state of Texas, last year, 1/3 of the educators that entered the profession in Texas were uncertified.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how we as a state have allowed that to happen.
Wow.
And it's year after year.
Wow.
1/3 of teachers in the state of Texas that entered the profession last year were uncertified to teach the subject I'm taught.
Sheesh.
So that's my point on having a proper balance of how we spend money. We've got to spend it wisely.
Sure.
And we've got to make great decisions for our kids, because
Sure.
we're in a crisis in the classroom in the state of Texas.
Sometimes it seems like we don't think enough moves ahead. So, hey, I just, because, and I'd like to talk about this in a second, talk about how, because a lot of people say, hey, well, my property taxes are going up. But it's more than just, hey, I'm paying more in taxes. The ramifications of you paying these taxes actually are affecting. So even if you don't have children in school, if the children that are in school are not getting educated well, they're not seeing opportunities. Where we see explosions in crime are in places where people feel like they don't have opportunities.
Right.
And so it maybe creating a safer area, which we have a pretty safe city compared to a lot of cities in Texas. But if we want an even safer city, if we're able to provide opportunity for people where they're able to take care of themselves, that starts with the education system. So if you walk those steps back, this is actually the beginning of us being able to shore up our own community.
Right.
What kind of people are we going to be taking out of the school system and placing in our community?
Right.
People that can't do anything for themselves because they haven't been educated, or they don't have the backing of good teachers. Or are we just sending out people, are we going to send out people that are educated, that are trained, that have skills, that have an outlook for their future? Right. All those things are super important.
And the key words you mentioned is one of my favorite words, is opportunity. And over the years, I've just really grown to love that word, because that's what we provide in education, is opportunity.
Sure.
And I say that because a coach changed my life. I grew up in generational poverty, and it was just an educator, coach who stepped in and made a difference in Wayne Guidry's life. And that happens all the time.
Can you tell us about that? Can you tell us a little bit? And I don't want to go too deep into your story, but like where you're from and kind of your path to where you.
So I grew up in a little town, Orangeville, Texas.
Okay.
Orange and Beaumont, and graduated with 83 students. But was very fortunate to be at the beginning of just a coach who was asked to coach pole vault. Went and bought him a book.
Oh, wow.
Started learning how to coach pole vaulting, and within
I guess uncertified teachers can make an impact too.
Within 5 years, we had the best pole vaulting program in the nation.
Wow.
We broke the high school national record, the collegiate indoor record.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it was just from an educator that, and it wasn't just about the records or, the scholarships. It was really about how on a daily basis he was talking to us about what it meant to be a man. About what it meant to just have, high standards, about, getting that college degree.
Sure.
The college, that was bonuses, that was great stuff, but it was really just a great human being teaching us what it meant to be a great human being and a great citizen. And I'm like, that was a special opportunity for me.
Wow.
And that's what we do in educate. That's what our educators do, is we provide special opportunities.
Sure.
And that's why we need the best.
Sure.
That's why we got to balance how we spend money, so we can make sure and get the best educators in our classrooms to give those same opportunities that change not just my life, it changed the course of my kids' lives.
Sure.
And their kids. Generational poverty is hard to break.
It is.
I mean, it's tough.
It takes
special. And to me, that's the biggest thing as I look back in life. It takes special people. It takes mentors to break that chain.
And so if y'all are not connecting the dots, here's an opportunity. I mean, to have somebody hired on as a coach, and to have, as a man trying to provide for my family, 3 children, and I'm married to the most beautiful woman in the world. I want some brownie points for that. No, but of course, I'm not just chasing a check, but life is becoming more expensive.
Oh, absolutely.
And teaching is one of the most sacrificial jobs. Mm-hmm. I really wish people could go and spend a few moments in the classroom, and maybe not even classroom, go to a Bible study and teach the teenagers.
Right.
And when you recognize how much you're actually having to pour out of yourself in order to give these children that you care about the best opportunity that they can get education wise, one of the least things you should have to worry about is whether or not I can afford to live.
Right.
So I greatly appreciate that connection, and I thank you for sharing your story. I think that's super important. I want to kind of ask an off topic, because when you said pole vaulting, I've never spoken with a pole vaulter before. What is it like? Like what inspired you to want to pole vault, of all things?
No, it was my coach. He was a elementary / junior high coach, and what he would do is he would scout out his 6th grade kids. And then at the end of the 6th grade year, he was like, "You're going to be my pole vaulter." And we started jumping our 7th grade year, and so yeah, it was him. He just said, "You're going to do this," and I'm like, "Let's do it."
Out there. It's funny what a man speaking into another young man can do. To inspire this person to become something they never saw themselves to be.
Yeah, I tell my kids and people all the time, you're influencing people every day. The question is it a positive or negative?
Which way are you pushing them? I agree.
Negative, you're going to be the light of the world, or
I agree.
The darkness of the world.
I agree. I agree 100%. And I won't get started on that, because that's probably a soapbox I'll end up on. I've seen some other things like the Lobo Coliseum upgrades. What kind of upgrades can we look forward to there at the Coliseum, and if you want to also touch on like Judson Middle School renovations and things like that.
So the biggest one to the Coliseum would be a new floor. So I believe that floor was put in there. The facility was built back in 1988, and so it's an old facility. And when you walk in, it looks just like it did. Back in 1988.
Yeah,
and so the 2 biggest expenditures there would be the new floor and new lighting.
Got you.
That's a state-of-the-art facility. It just don't look like it.
Sure.
The lighting is just horrible in there, and also the sound system. So with Mr. Brewer's funeral there, and it really drove me crazy. I couldn't hear half of what his brother was saying.
Oh wow!
And I'm like, I know it was a powerful story. We have convocation in there. And I can only hear about every 3rd word, Dr. Wilcox is saying. So that's going to be one of the first things we do, is upgrade that sound system, just so we can communicate better. Big events in there.
And that place, of course, holds a special place in my heart. Playing ball there, being a 3-year letter winner there, and had a lot of great times. I do think things like that will bolster some of the support that the teams need. I learned from listening to Spencer Bourne's podcast that last year was the first year that all sports went to the playoffs, which is a tremendous thing. And I hope that we will continue to support kids, and when we have different upgrades like this, like come out and have a better experience. In all honesty, there's not a whole lot to do in Longview. So sports I know football Friday nights is super important. It also would be great to go into the Coliseum and have upgrades there.
Well, my biggest thing or take away from our athletic department is, every community I've ever been a part of has the same complaint. In the summertime, there's nothing for our kids to do.
Yeah.
Our Longview athletic department, they have Monday through Thursdays in the summertime, they have 400 kids that come up every day.
Wow.
Work out and train. And I've always enjoyed that with my kids, because there is nothing to do in the summertime.
Sure.
So at least I know they're waking up and having a good schedule.
Sure.
Having some interaction with adults and getting something out of it.
I was looking at the one thing that really popped up stood out to me. Not only Judson Middle School renovations. I went to Judson. I'm a Blue Devil. I think it's the best middle school here in Longview. Sorry, Foster and Forest Park. I don't take that back at all. But the solar project.
Mm-hmm.
What are they wanting to do there?
So that's a district-wide solar project.
Okay.
And
okay.
So that's not just at Judson.
Got you. Okay.
So,
okay.
One thing Dr. Wilcox has been really good about is trying to be energy efficient in our district. We have what we call underground heat water pump systems that are more efficient to use than putting units on top of your building. Sure. We engaged in a energy savings project about a year and a half ago, came up on 2 years, and we've already saved $500,000.
Wow.
On that. And this solar project is just another extension of trying to conserve energy, spend wisely. So I can go back to one of my earlier statements, so we can spend that money on our people.
Sure.
And so solar project is just have solar at the majority of the campuses to lower that energy cost, so we can divert that money to our people.
Okay, I understand. You were talking about earlier a new, is it the new CTE center? Is there a plan of where that's going to go already? I know there was some land purchase and everything. Was that part of the idea there?
Our original thought was to put it there on the other side of the softball field where that grass.
Oh, okay.
Is. But
since you're gonna have the new facility,
right.
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to work with architects to see if we can't put it on either side of that high school. You just hate for kids to have to walk that far.
Sure.
Every period. You're just losing, a total of probably 8-9 minutes.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So we're going to work with architects to see if we can't get it a little bit closer. It's close.
But there are options out there. There's different options. Okay. Right. Okay. New bus barn. I've driven through the bus barn before, and this could definitely be upgraded. Are they thinking about just redoing the one that's there?
No, we're going to build a brand new one.
Build a brand new
land out there beside the bus barn between us and Aon Coil.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're doing a lot of work over there right now.
So we're going to continue it, tear those trees down, and just build a nice one.
Nice. What will that help? Like what will that benefit?
Morale.
Okay, sure.
It's a dump.
Listen, it's important. Sometimes I feel like people look over things like morale. Yeah. But when I come and it's a dread for me to come to work, I want the people that are caring for my children to feel some inspiration when they're doing it. They come and, man, I feel like the people that are over me don't care about me. The people that I'm over, I'm less likely to care about enough.
The most dangerous thing we do every day is transport our kids
back
to home.
Sure.
It's the most dangerous thing by far.
It's got the most variables that you can't control.
And it's not just morale, it's respect. Our ladies do not feel respected by that dump that they have to work out of right now. There's 125 employees, and they all come to work at the same time, have to clock in. They complain more about that facility than they do the kids on their bus.
Wow.
And so we can do better, and that's why we put that on there.
Sure. Early childhood facilities. I know we got Playing for Keeps. So if my understanding is correctly, they're thinking about renovating, Playing for Keeps, and then adding another childhood facility.
Correct. So we build a new facility and then renovate the existing facility so our special ed and technology can move into that building.
Sure.
They're currently over on 3rd Street, right next to Chris's St. Elizabeth, and it's old. It's an old building that needs to be torn down, and so we relocate them, build a new Playing for Keeps facility, and that's just something that's really been important to our school board and Dr. Wilcox, is that we reach kids as early as possible. Just all the research in the world shows that if you can get those kids reading and learning at an early age, it makes that tail end so much easier and efficient. Sure.
And it was so my oldest one. There's one of the most affordable places in the city for early childhood care.
With a big waiting list.
With a big waiting list, we were shocked that we were able to get in, and super appreciative. So definitely adding more of that would be great. That's. Okay, now life cycle replacements. I have no idea. I see HVAC systems, things like that. Is that only HVAC, or are there other things that we're needing to repair?
So we're a very, very unique district, because when Dr. Wilcox came, tore down all those old elementaries and those junior highs and built brand new ones. Well, the problem with doing that is all the ACs go out at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And so we cannot afford as a district to say we're going to replace all of that with our operating budget.
Gotcha.
And so that's why we put that in here, so we can manage that. And really, this district and community need to plan on every 10 to 15 years, we need to do a little bond election just for that purpose.
Just for that, okay.
Because no district is like that. Majority of districts, they build here and there as they go along, but very rarely do you find a district that just tore everything down and rebuilt it all. And so we've got to learn to adjust to that as a community and a school district.
Sure.
So that we don't break ourselves.
Sure, definitely.
And I hear this argument that, well, you should have saved up as you went. Well, kind of my counter to that is you've never been in a school district.
Sure.
And you've got 2 weeks till school begins and you're still 7 teachers short. That's a scary place to be in.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that's unique to Longview. That's every school district in the state of Texas. That August is a very, very scary month because of the lack of teachers we have. And so it comes back to our priorities. We've got 80% of our budget spent on salaries. And so that's where our money is dedicated to.
Sure.
You go to a school district that doesn't have enough teachers in their high school, go ask their parents what's most important. And I guarantee they're going to say the teachers.
Yeah.
So,
and just thinking about that, I mean, if the bond isn't passed and we have to start taking money from the operating in order to make repairs on things like AC units and things like that, that's less money that we can pay to teachers. Is that am I understanding?
$5.7 million how much we'll spend this year.
$5.7 million.
Yep,
wow.
We spent 4.5 last year, and we'll spend 5.7 this year.
Wow.
And it's rightfully so that the school board's decided if we're not going to renovate our district with bond funds, we have to start chipping away with district funds. Sure.
One thing that I saw discussed, and I don't know a whole lot about, is somebody was mentioning interest on the is there interest tied to the money that is that's voted on? So if the proposition goes into effect, is there interest that's tacked on to this as well?
And so that's with every school bond. And so our planning amount was 5%, and I looked within the last couple of weeks, and I think that the market was right at 4.2%. So we still feel comfortable about where we're at. Sure. Projections.
Is the bond, is it a loan or like I guess I don't understand. In my work realm, the interest is tied because there's a loan attached to it. What is the interest? What is the interest for?
Well, so what we'll do is we'll separate the bond into 3 different payments or sellings where we go out and sell the bonds.
Okay.
So we won't do it all at once.
Got it. Okay.
Each, it's really working together with the architect, the construction company, and our financial advisor to say, okay, at what point do we need to sell off on each one of these?
Gotcha.
And so there'll be 3 different points throughout this process where we go out to the market and sell our bonds and whatever rate.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Moving to what a lot of people, of course, discuss. One of the reasons why we vote on this is because it does affect our taxes. And what kind of ways will people see an effect on their taxes? And what are your thoughts on that? To any pushback?
Well, we just have traditions every year. We cook turkeys for Thanksgiving. We get together with the family. We celebrate Christmas, and about this time of year we get our tax notices, and we start griping because the taxes went up.
Sure.
One thing I've been trying to inform the public of is that if your taxes went up on your home, you need to look into it a little bit more because something's probably wrong. Because every citizen that has filed a homestead exemption on their home, their taxes should have went down significantly. I've visited people, and a lot of elder people, their taxes have been reduced by 50%. Some of their taxes went away completely. I know I got my letter in the mail last week, and my taxes went down. And so the average citizen, according to the state, taxes should have went down about $1,300. Here in Longview, that number is closer to $900.
Gotcha.
And so there should be significant decrease in people's taxes this year.
I'm assuming that must be from the recent legislation that's and I know that they're voting that in on the 7th, but they they feel extremely confident. I think most counties are already showing that change. We went from like $40,000 exemption to $100,000 exemption, which is significant. So that I think a lot of people probably come from a place of, hey, I'm worried about my taxes increasing because of the values increasing. Is it changing? Will this change the tax rate? I know the tax rate is broken down by different factions of our of our county. Will it only affect the Longview ISD tax rate? Is that what we're going to see?
Yeah, so it'll be less than a penny. For the home that's valued at $200,000, that's right. It would cost them right at $10 a year.
Okay.
I've actually rounded up as right at $7. We rounded up to 10, or 83 cents a month, and that's for a home that's valued at $200,000.
Sure.
So you'll still get your tax break, $900 that the Senate gave, the legislature gave, but from that, the district is asking right at $10 a year,
which is not a lot of money. I know that. Now, how long is it projected for us to have to
right at 23 years?
23 years.
Yeah, 23. We're selling off at 3 times, and I think between 23 and 25 years.
Got you. So. What are some common misconceptions about the bond that you run? I know you. So off camera, you told me that you've done almost 60 presentations on this, and so y'all have definitely turned a corner on from the last one and trying to inform the people and make sure you get the correct information out there. I'm seeing signs everywhere. What are some, when you're doing these meetings and meetups, what are some misconceptions that you're running into?
We try to be proactive because I've heard, and I just call it street talk, from the last election. And one of the biggest ones is, that I kept hearing is that we have more debt than any school district in the state of Texas. And that is simply not true. That's simply a false statement from somebody that's just uninformed.
Yeah.
On our website, the little presentation, I see you've got it pulled up there, but we look at our adjusted debt to assessed value, and we're actually one of the lowest in East Texas.
Wow. In
terms of our bond, our indebtedness compared to our property values.
Gotcha.
Best practice is 10%. If you look at our values last year, our ratio was 2.3. This year it has decreased to 1.8%. And so you got to ask the question, well, what if both propositions pass? Are we still going to be under 10%? Well, we'll be at 6.8%. So we're in great shape now, one of probably the lowest in East Texas.
Sure.
And if both propositions pass, we'll still be in great shape.
Good. And so that I know that eases my mind. I mean, and because I can understand that if you're having concerns about, hey, how is this going to affect my pocketbook? Everything right now is going up. The price of everything is going up. I want to say that your concerns are valid, but they may not be informed correctly.
Right.
To have that concern, that's a valid thing to be concerned about, but they may not be informed correctly. Are there other misconceptions that you're running to that people that you can dispel right now?
Well, another one is that we've had declining enrollment at the high school for the past 10 years. How in the world could you be out of space? Well, and that makes sense, but when you get into the details, during the 2008 bond, they took away about 30 classrooms from that high school, attempting to make different learning spaces. And that's the thing that's different now is we have instruction has changed.
Gotcha.
What we offer has changed.
Sure.
They took 2 rooms and created one science classroom / science lab. So we've got state-of-the-art science labs now that has a lab and a classroom.
Wow.
We've got these great nursing rooms that are big with nursing tables in.
Sure. My niece is a part of the program.
Yeah. So even though I understand the argument that you declining enrollment, but how we instruct has changed. The instructional spaces has changed.
Sure.
And we adapted to it, which is great. It was a great thing what they did in 2008, but we have a different situation now because we keep wanting to add more instructional spaces.
Sure.
And I've just run out of room. And so
because it can't just always be a room with 30 desks in it.
Right.
If you're going to teach different things, you're going to need, like you just said, if you had to take 2 rooms to now incorporate one science learning facility, that it's a good improvement, but it comes with a cost. Yeah. And like you said at the beginning, I just think that there's two things that's constant: it's change and more change. Yeah. Go ahead.
I just want to say, but the biggest thing that I've run across is, so we did a survey this summer, and we asked, about the bond, and we asked, one of the questions was, if you voted no in a bond election, why would you vote no? The number one answer was, we don't trust you with the funds. And so that really sunk with me.
Sure.
But as we've been out doing all 60 of these presentations, something that's really hit home to me is that when I'm sitting there talking to people face to face, it's like there's some trust built right there. And I'm like, I think that's the lesson we're learning as a district, is that we really need to be out talking to people more.
Sure.
We need to be into different rotaries and different people that have allowed us to come in. We need to make that an annual visit so people can hear our voice.
Yeah.
Look at us and
connect.
I'm new to the district, and I'll just be honest. Before I came to Longview, I heard of all the street talk, the corruption and this and that. And I approve every dollar that gets spent in that district. Every one of our leadership meetings, it's about business. It's about those kids, our adults, and being responsible with with our finances.
Sure.
And I'm like, I'm incredibly proud of the district I work for.
Sure.
And I've seen nothing, that I would consider under the table.
Sure.
I think our fault is not communicating, not having conversations like this.
Yeah.
And we just have to be better at that. And I think to me, that's more important than what happens on November 7th.
Gotcha.
We continue to build trust within the community.
Sure.
And I think it just takes a one-on-one, conversation like this with our citizens to restore some trust.
I think it's important to have a balancing voice. I'm just not the type of person to just believe everything that one person says just because I want it to be tested by some. I don't know enough about anything to feel like I have the right questions to ask. So I think it's important, though, also to be able to disclose and have as much information, because if you're not saying anything, people are being informed by somebody.
Yep.
Is this somebody actually on the inside? People give statistics all the time, and I constantly say to people, statistics, they tell a story. It may not be the whole story though.
Absolutely.
So I think it's important. I'm glad that I really appreciate you coming on to talk, because I can get information from Sally Sue on Facebook, but I don't have a way to really fact check her.
Right.
Just
an example. So we have board meetings every month, and so we'll publish our agenda online, and all of the documents that we're going to consider, every contract, everything we're going to consider that we're asking our board to vote on, we put the documents up there for the public to see.
Sure.
Our board book, we call it our board book, this website. Our last board book was 241 pages long.
Wow.
Go to districts around East Texas and look at their board book. There's about 3 pages on each one of them.
Really?
And it's just the agenda. We're more forthright, with our information and the decisions we make, I think, than anybody in the state of Texas. But yet we're still not trusted. Yet we're putting that much information out every month.
Sure.
So it just goes back to, we've got to try something different.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think it's just going to be Facebook's going to be for us.
I understand.
And so
I think it's I think Facebook is a great tool, and it's also can be used ineffectively. There are a lot of opinions. I read through a thread recently, or the same. That's where I got the thought about the jumbotron. And I think I saw that being mentioned as a reason not to trust the school district using the funds properly. I think I probably saw that 7 or 8 times. And the lady, she was basically just copy and pasting the same answer.
Right.
Hey, this was not used for my fund. This is a grant.
Yeah. Well, and to me, it's about the process. I can't stand signs and things like that. I'm just old school. But do we trust our principals who are on the ground in those campuses, dealing with operations of that campus on a daily basis? The question is, do we trust them to make decisions?
Yeah.
I mean, do you really want me making every decision that entails your child or that campus? No, because I'm not on the campus every day.
Right.
Do we trust our principals or not? And to me, we have to. I mean, we hire great principals.
Sure.
Let's put them in charge of their campus and
Sure.
let them run their campus and make decisions
Sure.
concerning signs. And I'm not here to say that they're right or wrong, but that's a decision we made, and
we move forward with it.
Yeah.
Any other things that you feel are important for people to understand about this bond and what they're voting for? Is there anything else that you feel like you may need to touch on to help people get a clear understanding?
No, I think the biggest, it's the way you started this discussion off is just, be informed.
Sure.
We've got a website. You can go to any web page on our district site.
Mm-hmm.
And in the top left, you can click on a link, and I know we have 5 videos. The presentation I've been doing for the last 3 months, we've split that into 3 different videos.
Sure.
And have walked people through Proposition A is part 1, Proposition B was part 2, and then the finance part of it was part 3.
Sure.
And it's about 60 minutes worth of video, but let's get informed. Let's make our future depends on us making great decisions
Sure.
as a community.
Sure.
And I tell people, there's no second chances in raising our kids.
That's true.
We only get one chance to raise them and to educate them.
That's a daunting.
We better get it right the first time.
And you think about how quickly it goes. I was trying to make a 10-year plan,
Mm-hmm.
and it just hit me about 3 weeks ago that my son has 10 more years of school left. He's in the 2nd grade. In 10 years, he'll be graduating. And that used to feel like a long time to me. Until I thought about that I'm at like year 15 since I've been graduated from high school. My sister, she's coming up on 20 years since she's been out of high school, and my niece, we just went to see her yesterday. She's a senior playing volleyball, and I can remember the day that she was born. I was on the bus playing. We were playing at Huntington and Shreveport. Had a great game, got back on the bus and found out my niece was born. I was an uncle, one of the greatest days of my life. And then I turned around and I'm looking at her now about to graduate. Yeah. And you recognize like, oh, wait, did I deposit into the people that I love the things that they're going to need as they enter into it's a vicious world out here. Right. We're kind of, it's a dog eat dog world out here. Did we give our people what they needed in order to come out and do their best and to thrive?
My wife went to a workshop years ago, and it was some great motivational speaker, and she came back and she said a comment he made was that the average parent spends less than 5 minutes of quality time with their children every day. And my thought was, well, there's some sorry parents out there.
Sure.
But then I started looking at what Wayne Guidry was doing in terms of depositing into his kids.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, the kids are always in the same room with me.
Sure.
They're always in the car with me.
Is that
We're
the
always,
same?
the same
I
vicinity.
agree.
But I'm like, I don't know if I'm spending much more than 5 minutes investing my kids of pure quality time.
Sure.
And so I'm convicted by the same thing you're talking about. Am I depositing enough into my kids? And
the intentionality of that,
our kids are not growing up in the most difficult time in history.
Sure.
But they're growing up in terms of the most challenging times.
Sure.
Because they're being raised by devices.
Televisions. They have a gap year of communication and social skills, or maybe 2 years. That's a long time where you're not socializing with people in the normal way.
But that's why it's so important that we get it right as a community and school district.
Sure.
That's where we're able to make great decisions and move forward in the best way possible for our students. If we understand each other, we're communicating with each other, and just making great decisions.
Sure.
I mean,
and I think it's important to say also, like, of course we've talked about several times, like, hey, I can't nail down this is exactly how I'm going to use this money, because things will change. Y'all, I think it's important that any leader is held accountable. It is also that accountability, when you give it out, it's also coming back on you to not just say, oh, hey, you need to do better. But you're also needing to inform yourself on why is this decision being made? And did I voice my opinion in time to you talked about earlier, the survey, it's eye-opening for you when you hear from the public. And as a leader in our school district, now you're able to make a better decision because the voices are heard. So I just want to encourage, everybody, and it's not too late. I am one that waited too long to get involved. Last year I was not involved in any of the bond information. I just kind of, just let it pass over, not realizing that, hey, this could affect my child moving forward, all of my children moving forward. So I want to encourage you, if you have questions, you can comment on these things. I don't mind passing them along to Dr. Guidry now if I can help you answer those questions or anything like that. It's important to get those out and before you go vote and get informed. Dr. Guidry, I really appreciate it. I'm out of questions. If you don't have anything else you feel like you need to add on, I think this is a time that we can wrap up here. We've got almost an hour, and I know we've got 60 minutes of other videos, y'all. There's plenty of information out there. Get involved, get informed, get out and vote. Your voice is important. And there's only a limited time to voice your opinion. So we've got to November 7th. If you haven't registered, unfortunately, that time passed on October 10th. If you haven't been registered to vote, if you have registered to vote, please get out. I think we talked off camera that I appreciate everybody's already getting to the polls. Yeah. What was the number that you gave?
I think I heard the county, we've had 4 times as many voters on day one than we had in the last similar election.
So clearly y'all are doing a good job getting the people stirred up. I know this more than just Proposition A and B, but people are getting out and they're getting active. Continue to use your voice and continue to get the information so that you can make an informed decision. I just want to remind you that Season 4 is starting for the Success and State podcast starting this Friday. Like, subscribe, share this video, and also too, there's going to be a little reward for those new subscribers that come onto the podcast. You have a great opportunity to earn a few dollars by sharing. So you'll see that information later today and tomorrow. Thank you so much for checking out this video, listening. Please feel free to comment with any questions and things that you may have. Dr. Guidry, thank you again.
Hey, thank you, man.
It's been a pleasure. Yep. All right. Thank y'all, and we'll see you on the next video.
Let's go Lobos.
Go Lobos.